Hey guys, welcome to Scorched Earth Tarot. This is going to be a general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon and Ascendant for the month of November. I can barely believe I'm saying that. This year's galloped past. I don't really know what to say about that. So anyway, Sun, Moon and Ascendant Scorpios. If you don't know what your Moon and Ascendant signs are, have a look in the description box. I've put a link in there that will help you. And if you want a better overview of what's going on with you in all aspects of your life, I would suggest you watch videos for all three. Your Venus too, if you're feeling super enthusiastic. I was going to do these videos from where I was on holiday last week. I got back yesterday, but I tried locking myself out on the balcony, which was the only quiet place in my apartment with my kids hooning around, and I got eaten alive by mozzies, so I wussed out. Decided I'd wait until I got home. But all that said, I hope these videos find you well. Been drawn to use the Druid Craft. Is it the Druid Craft Tarot? It is. Druid Craft tarot deck for you this month. I've got like a heap of amazing tarot decks and I kind of rotate the same 4 every month, so I'm going to broaden it out a little bit. And yeah, you've got this one. So have a look down in the comment box if you don't want to see me shuffling and waffling and all that sort of business, because I timestamp all the videos, so it'll be down there. And what else to tell you? If you haven't subscribed, do, please. I'd really appreciate it. Oh, also, yeah, I jacked in my job so I can do this full time. So any support that you can give me would be gratefully received, because I'm on uncharted territory right now. Right. Because these cards are so massive, I can't shuffle them in the usual way that I would, so I'm going to divide them into some piles, and I'm going to pick a pile and take the top 3 cards from there. I hope that's acceptable to you. Yeah, it's that pile. So the 3 cards that you have this month, Scorpio, are Death, wonderful, 5 of Swords, and the 4 of Pentacles. Card at the bottom of the deck is Ace of Pentacles. We'll get to that shortly. So I want to pull some clarifiers for this before I go on any further. I love this Death card. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Obviously, if you didn't know, that's your card. It's a card for Scorpio in the Major Arcana, which is awesome. Now, I was also drawn to use the Deviant Moon for your clarifiers, which I found a little bit interesting because that's quite a dark deck. I tend only really to use it for shadow work, but it wanted to be used, so here we are. So we're going to get a couple of clarifiers for each card and then we'll get stuck in. So, oh, these are big cards as well. Why is Death here? Whoa. 7 of Wands, fire energy. Why is Death here for Scorpio? For the month of November. An awful lot of cards are flipping here. I want them to jump, otherwise I don't want to take them. Page of Swords. Interesting. Okay. Where's the 5 of Swords here for Scorpio? Got the Ace of Swords, some truth coming out. And then we've got 2 that jumped out together, so I'm going to take those. 3 of Wands and the High Priestess. Interesting combination. These cards have taken up most of my table already. And 4 of Pentacles. Why is the 4 of Pentacles here for Scorpio? King of Pentacles. Earth energy. And the 10 of Swords. At the bottom of this deck. At the bottom of this deck. Death again for you. So it's quite interesting. So for the shadow cards, we've got endings and beginnings. And as you know, we need endings for new beginnings. Starting with the Ace of Pentacles. Pentacles are earth energy, obviously, so that's Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. But they're about material, you know, so money, possessions, but also everything that runs from needs to wants. You know, if you were to imagine Maslow's hierarchy of needs, everything on there pretty much would be encapsulated by the Pentacles suit. Needs, luxuries, everything in between. So the Ace, which is the beginning, it's the infinite potential of the suit. So it says literally anything is possible that you can hold in your hands, that you could need, that you could want. It could be a new job, it could be a promotion. It's unlikely to be a lottery ticket. These things don't tend to just drop in your lap. What drops into your lap is the opportunity to take care of those needs through something else. And then we have Death. I love the Death card. I think it's probably my favourite card in any deck. It's always the first one that I look to when I'm considering buying a new deck, and this is a particularly exquisite depiction because this kind of death figure that's trampling on a smaller version is pregnant, and there's a ship going down in the background. You see it? So from all endings, new things arise. Exciting. So the first card that you have is Death. And as I just said with the Shadow card, it speaks of endings, but it speaks of transformations as well. It speaks of being taken from one state and being put into another. But in order for that to happen, the dead wood has got to be taken out of your life. You know, anything that's holding you down, keeping you tethered, that isn't actually doing anything to serve you in your existence, that goes, right? Death comes in, takes it all away. And in this depiction, there's a snake up in the corner. And I love snakes. Like the ancient depictions of snakes always refer to knowledge, you know, wisdom, things like that. And in this particular depiction, there's a sense that that you've gained some wisdom, and this is allowing you to move on, to move up, to move on with something. It's very personal, it's very internal. The fact that we've got the Ace of Pentacles as a shadow card, I mean, this could be even, you know, it could be passing a set of exams that allowed you to progress to the next level of something, you know, in its basic form. In other forms, it could be, you know, understanding that a relationship isn't working for you, or understanding that your job is awful and you hate it, and actually you're looking for something that gives you a level of satisfaction that you don't gain in there. Yeah. But the snake is a perfect animal to have on this card, because it sheds its skin, you know, and that's its evolution right there. And there's a real sense of you doing that this month. You're shedding the old you. You're shedding old ways of doing things. You may be shedding old ways of thinking about things. Maybe you're shedding an old job and you're moving on to something else. You're moving forwards. Beautiful. And the two cards that you have to clarify are the Seven of Wands and the Page of Swords. On the face, it's quite an interesting pairing to clarify this card. Because the Seven of Wands is about feeling defensive. You know, in other decks it's depicted as a person sometimes protecting a child with, you know, like wands coming at them from all sides and them holding one, you know, getting ready to fight. There's a sense of fighting from a higher position, so the moral high ground quite often. But in this card, she's surrounded by the wands, and they're depicted almost like a forest around her. And there's a sense of not being able to see the wood for the trees in this particular depiction. Like, this person's wounded. They've got little cuts and abrasions everywhere, but they are on the path. And whether they've realised it or not, they found the wood that they were looking for. And I think this is you, Scorpio. It's under a crescent moon. Maybe your evolution is purposefully intended but accidentally achieved, if that makes sense to anyone. And then we have the Page of Swords. So it's the lowest of the court hierarchy of the sword suit. And pages are messengers, often. So it could be about receiving news about something. Being of the sword suit, and it's often not comfortable news. It's not something that we really want to know, but it's there anyway. And maybe it's receiving some news that puts you in a position where you can let something die, you can let something move off. You know, I'm drawn to the fact that in this card here, this character's got one eye open and one eye closed, and kind of blundering around, like sort of feeling their way through. There's not as much of a sense of sight in this card. This character literally has a bionic eye, right there. And the sword is up. So whatever news you get, it's true. And it's clarifying your way for you. It's allowing you to see where you haven't been able to see before. You know, because this is the underpinning energy of this card here. So this transformation, this evolution, this shedding of skin is occurring here. And this is the energy that has brought you to that place. Kind of blundering along a little bit, trying to feel your way through to getting bionic vision, being able to see your way absolutely clearly in front of you. The next card you've got is the Five of Swords. And I don't usually like this card in the Rider-Waite, but this is a slightly different depiction. And there's you know, the standard kind of man holding all the swords and another one walking off dejected. But notice the positioning of all of these swords. They're all kind of horizontal. They're not pointing down exactly, but they're not pointing up. So that makes me feel like they're relatively neutral. It's a 5, so it speaks of conflict, change, uncomfortable change often. And because it's swords, it's words, it's communication, it's thought processes. Something is in flux, right? 5s are very unstable. So there's been a shift. Just as there's a shift here, and that's a terrifically big shift. This is not such a big shift, but it is an uncomfortable change. So perhaps this is you. Perhaps this is you just putting your swords down and going, do you know what? It's not worth what I will lose to continue to try and fight my corner with this. And take it as it resonates to you, because it can go absolutely any way. This could be about a job. This could be like a shitty employer that you have, you know, that you put in your best and it's never quite good enough. It could be a friend. It could be a partner. It could be any kind of conflict that you're having. You know, this could be you, and you could just be going, nah, fuck this. I'm walking away. And I feel strongly, actually, that is probably the case. Yeah. The more I look at it, the more I don't think that this other chap, this one here holding all swords, is you. Yeah. This is somebody saying anything to win the argument. This is someone doing anything to win. And whilst Scorpio is can be quite competitive at times, quietly, understatedly, but definitely there. There's a level of maturity implied here by your actions in walking away, and that fits very well with this leveling up, shedding skin, evolving through a situation that is hard because it's 5, and so it's uncomfortable for you. And then the next card you have is the Ace of Swords. It's another ace for you, Scorpio. And this is a truth. You know, the sword's in the upright position. This is integrity, this is honour, this is truth. And it's coming out to clarify a situation that speaks not of such things. This is you, this is your energy, and this is what you've walked away from. Like that. You walked away with this. It's amazing. It looks like an angel with armoured wings. Yeah. And I cannot help but notice that these 2 characters on these 2 cards look very similar, but in different states. You know, this card speaks of you blundering around in the dark and not really understanding where you were going, kind of sticking to the path, setting out with definite intent, but kind of losing your way a little bit, or losing sight of what it was that you set out to achieve before achieving that laser focus. You know, and here that Page of Wands, student of lofty ideals and such like, the messenger. It's got 1 sword as well. This is you finding your clarity. This is you finding your integrity. This is finding all of those things that drive you inside, your sense of right and wrong. You're there. And you have a laurel wreath now. You may have walked away from this and so on the face of it not won the battle, but actually internally you have. You know, you've done something perhaps that you haven't done before. Put your swords down and walked away because you know you've got a better sword. You know, maybe he's going out to get it now. You've got a better sword. You've got armoured wings. You've got integrity. You've got truth. You've got logic. You've got good communication. You know, you've got solid truth right there. And the second set of cards that you had to clarify here were the Three of Wands and the two in the form of the High Priestess, Major Arcana. And the Three of Wands talks about planning. It talks about, well, it talks about the step beyond planning. You know, if the Two of Wands is where you are sat, you know, thinking about how to implement that flash of inspiration that you got from an Ace of Wands. So the Three is when you start putting that plan into action. And here you are, ready to do it now. Coming out as it did with the High Priestess, you are keeping this very low key. You know, that's an active card. That's a passive card. 3 out, active, masculine, actually. 2 internal, feminine. Whilst on the face of it, that looks like they should conflict with each other. I don't feel like they do at all. I feel like the High Priestess means you're keeping all of this on the down low, but you are actually putting in some effort now to make something happen right here. You know, and you are very, very wrapped up in what it is, because you're not just holding those wands. You know, you got a belly button connection to those wands. And how interesting that there should be that imagery there. You know, our belly button's coming from the umbilical cord that connects us to our mother. You know, and your death card there is pregnant. You're letting something end here, because you're ready to start bringing in something new. And it's something really important to you. I mean, you don't connect yourself like that to something that isn't important. You're not ready to share it with the world yet. I mean, it's under the moon as well. You know, there's things that are hidden, things that are obfuscated. You know, and if there are things that are hidden, that's what the High Priestess is definitely in charge of. But the High Priestess knows everything. You know, so just as she speaks of secrets, she's also speaking about immense knowledge. And we have the snake on this card here, also talking about immense knowledge. You're keeping it on the down low. And that's really interesting. Not because, I mean, you're a Scorpio, so kind of everything that you do is broadly on the down low, but you took a public hit there. You let people think that you kind of lost that battle. But it's because you're working on something else. And this something else is far more important to you. You know, it's important enough to have had an armoured angel. It's important for you, enough for you to attach yourself by an umbilical cord to what it is that you're creating. And it's important enough. Again, this High Priestess, she's got armoured wings as well. She's there. It's important enough that you're not sharing it with the world. You don't want anyone else to get in at the moment on what it is that you're doing. I want to pull a couple more cards for that because I think it's really interesting. Just have a look. Basically because I'm extremely nosy also. I just... Another shuffle. got the Five of Pentacles and the Devil reversed. Yeah. So it's whatever's motivating you, whatever's driving you, it's because you're sick of being left out of something. Like, this is a card of isolation. This is a card of being pushed out of something, being pushed out of the way. You know, it's the frustration and loneliness and solitary feel about this. You know, there are people inside there and they're all having a good time, and this poor woman's outside. It's just like, shit. It's often a fear of that rather than that itself. You know, it can be a fear of poverty, it can be a fear of being left out, it can be a fear of isolation, or it can be being sick of those things. Take it as it resonates with you. But it coming out with the Devil reversed is really interesting, because that suggests to me that, as well as it possibly being a Capricorn that you're dealing with, but I don't really get that impression here, it's a situation that's had you feeling bound and tied and like you couldn't escape. You know, that those two there are not pleasant energies at all. But you've turned the Devil that way up, which means putting an end to that kind of energy. That can be obsession, it can be codependence, it can be toxic behavior of any description, but it can be feeling trapped, it can be feeling, you know, it can be self-sabotage, actually. So this could be bringing yourself in out of the cold by dealing with whatever it is you're sabotaging yourself with. You know, whatever it is, you're working on it really hard, and it's going to bear fruit, I think. Certainly seems to be the case. And the last card that you've got is the Four of Pentacles. And this can be a card of hanging on too hard to something. And it's interesting that it's come out directly behind the Devil reversed, because the Devil can be about holding on too tight to things. But it doesn't really come across that way, this one. You know, in the standard interpretation, the bloke's got a coin on his head, one around his chest, and he's got his feet on either one, and there's a very guarded kind of fuck off energy to that card. You know, this is mine, you're not having it, I'm not sharing it. This one is slightly different. I think it's in a chest. And yes, he's alone and he's in the dark, and he's obviously, this chest is not out in public view. But I get more of a sense of knowing what it is that's important from this particular interpretation of the card. You know, he's got a bag here, so he's got more pentacles. He's going to take them in. He's going to go and put them into the chest where he keeps all of his precious stuff. Oh, sorry, I got a mosquito bite on my leg. It's absolutely driving me scatty. Stop scratching. You know, the chest is beautiful. Even in and of itself, it's a thing of treasure. But it's holding something that he finds even more important than such a beautiful chest. And I guess there could be an element of subterfuge to it, because it's, you know, it's in a darkened space. He's obviously out of the way, and he's hiding this from other people. But I feel like just as it carries on from the High Priestess down here, I think it's just more of a case of you not advertising what it is that you're doing, because what you're doing is so important to you. You know, it's so valuable what you've got going on here, connected by an umbilical cord. It's so valuable that you don't want to run the risk of anybody coming in and cocking this up for you. clarified by the King of Pentacles and the Ten of Swords. I don't have a great deal of love for the King of Pentacles. Most people know that. Could be a Capricorn, Taurus, or a Virgo. It's male energy, so it's active rather than receptive. And the received wisdom is that the King of Pentacles is someone who's worked very hard to get to where he is. You know, he's made astute business decisions because that's how he works. You know, he's prioritised stability of his family beyond anything else. You know, in his shadow aspect, he can be a total bastard, but he has come out upright. And he's got a pentacle. You know, it's possible that this chap here, who's stashing all of these pentacles, is working his way up to become a King of Pentacles. There's a great sense of stability here, structure, things being done in quite a set way. There's a very slow moving energy. It takes a long time to accumulate a lot, you know, enough pentacles to be considered the King of Pentacles. He's the one who looks after his family. Yeah. I'm saying he just to keep me right because it's the king, but tarot doesn't really see gender, so it's not a thing. You know, it's just the masculine presentation of the energy. It's slow, but it's dependable. It's committed. It's very stable. Yeah. On the flip side, it can be a bit stagnant. No spontaneity whatsoever, you know. Very slow moving. This is a plan. This is a plan that you've got. You know, in the month of November, you are sitting here as the chap in the Four of Pentacles, and you're stashing whatever it is that's valuable to you. And that might be money, but it doesn't actually have to be. It could be something else. It could be, you know, it could be more internal workings of you. It could be emotions. It could be all sorts of things. It's whatever you feel valuable. Because look, he's sticking it in that fucking chest right there, you know. And his aim is to come up here. So maybe you need to be at a King of Pentacles point before you can thoroughly action whatever it is that we were talking about back here. You know, whatever you've let end so that you can start anew with something else, something that is very precious to you. It is the Ace of Pentacles, to bring you back to that. There's a certain amount of diligent, constant kind of cumulative behaviour that has to go on here. You know, the King of Pentacles is not sparky and ferocious like the King of Wands, say, who will just, you know, see something pretty and go off and chase it, or has some notion of an adventure in his head and he'll go off and he'll do it. You know, the King of Pentacles is not doing that. It's not going to do that. And any kind of movement at all, any movement that occurs, will occur slowly and to an absolute plan. And there will be no deviating from the plan. The last card that you've got is the Ten of Swords, and this is a really intriguing end to the read, because this is another card of endings. And you know, this is deeply, I haven't yet seen a depiction of the Ten of Swords that isn't deeply uncomfortable, but this is particularly gruesome. You know, he's being speared from all angles by the swords, and this speaks of betrayal, potentially. It can speak of crappy behaviour from other people. But it can also talk about arguments. It can talk about thought processes that we have that have wounded us. You know, this could be every... But here's the thing. Because it's come up with the Four of Pentacles and it's come up with the King of Pentacles and it's come up very much in relation to what it is that you're doing. You know, this is an ending. What I'm not entirely sure about is whether this is an ending that is part of this previous other stuff that you're ending. You know, it's the end of a cycle, 10 to the top. You know, it doesn't get any worse than that. That's just the rock bottom card, if you will. You know, and looks desperately uncomfortable. Desperately uncomfortable. So is this what you are letting go of while you're making your plan? Or is this something that caused the plan in the first place? Or is it a warning? Is it something you need to be worried about? Let's get some more cards and have a look, because I'm not sure off the top of my head. Where's the Ten of Swords here? Queen of Swords. I got one more. Four of Wands. Yeah, you're not letting this go on any longer. Like, that's why that's here. Like, you've been betrayed or let down, or in some way pierced over and over again with one of these swords. And these can be people's behaviour, these can be things people say about you, these are things you can say about yourself, you know, or whatever it is. It's painful as fuck, and you are calling an end to it now. Like, it ends now, because you've got the energy of the Queen of Swords here. The Queen of Swords and the King of Pentacles, despite kind of being at the other end of the spectrum from each other in terms of the speed and how fast things occur. You know, King of Pentacles is methodical and pragmatic, and, you know, works in a very set kind of slow pace, but absolutely gets things done. The energy of the Queen of Swords is much faster, but she's very black and white, much like how I envisaged the King of Pentacles to be as well, actually. There's a black and white energy to the Queen of Swords. She goes, no, fuck this, it's not happening. You know? And to have her coming out to clarify this situation, like, it's taking the swords out of yourself and using it for you. You know, bring you back to the Ace of Swords here. You know, look at these swords aloft. You're sitting on something, you're sitting on a new start, because you're sick of this, and there's endings and beginnings all over here, but you're in planning mode. You're planning it, you're not sharing it, you're not talking about it. You've done a lot of work to turn this energy around. And why is for this. Four of Wands. You know, Four of Wands is the happy home card. You know, it's joyous celebration. It's leveling up again. You know, it can be moving into a new home. It can be getting together with someone. It can be, you know, stepping the relationship up in some way. But whatever it is, it's a cause for celebration. But it's home celebration. It's security and stability, and it's something that is requiring some planning. And you're being quite brutal about what you're cutting out, what you're getting rid of. It's just, a woman takes no shit whatsoever. She's on stage, but she's she's taken off her mask. Look, maybe you feel like at the moment, while your planning stage is going, that you're having to wear a bit of a mask. You're having to pretend to go along with things. You do things that maybe you don't necessarily want to do, because in the background, what you're doing is squirreling away for your important stuff. You know, you've got 2 4s there, 2 numbers of security and stability stuff. There's going to come a point in November where that mask is coming. You're just going to take it off, and you're going to be like, "All right, fuck this shit. I've had enough. I'm done. I'm off to go and find my 4 of Wands," whatever that is. Whew. Yeah. Like, let me know in the comments if this resonates with you, because it's like super interesting, and I'm mulling on the fact that I was feeling drawn to these darker cards to do your reading than the ones that I would usually use. But there are some pretty dark themes here in these cards, but I kind of feel like it fits with this storyline, you know. And if it resonates, I'd be really interested to hear. I think I'm going to leave it there, because I've been rambling for ages now. I feel like 42 minutes, Jesus. I feel like I've been going on quite a bit. I might chop 10 minutes off the beginning of this or something, because I probably don't need those. But yes, this is now my full-time occupation, so you will be seeing more from me starting from next week, I would think. I'm not sure if I'm going to do weeklies or mid-monthlies. I haven't really decided yet. So if you haven't subscribed and whatnot, do that, and then you'll hear when I upload stuff. But yeah, best of luck, and I'll see you next time.